Hey, Bigpod. My video is awful
Hey.
stuttery right now.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, now if you're watching this on the video, you're going to see me like jerk around as I move. That's because I'm using Pipewire to record the video. Like actual Pipewire. Now, I'm not using like the camera device. I'm using this wonderful library called libcamera, which is like a universal driver for video cameras on Linux. It's supposedly the future of how video is done on Linux.
Nice.
And it's pretty cool in what I can do with it. Where technically, I can share my camera infinitely.
Ooh, fancy.
Which means that I could share it with you in our video call, OBS Studio, and wherever else I could possibly think of. So I think the easiest way to describe it is from like the pro audio user stack, where it's just like you have this thing called a patch bay where you can plug your speakers into as many things as you technically want, but this is for video.
Cue
And
the music.
of course, yeah. Hey guys, welcome to the Tux Aloud. I'm your host Josh with you today, and of course, like I previously mentioned in the teaser, my video is going to be a little bit laggy today. So sorry if you're watching this on YouTube and you're going to complain about video quality. I'm using beta softwares, but thankfully, to help have some sanity in, of course, our wonderful world of podcasting, I have brought my guest, Bigpod.
Hello. And I think we might actually be one of the first who will be using this technology in a serious non-test manner.
That's exactly true, because you know it is beta software being used for technically production right now. So I think we're innovative on something for once.
Yeah.
Because you know we totally haven't done anything else that's innovative at all, like that I know of.
Something like that.
That's true. But anyways, Bigpod, we have this article discussing SentinelOne.
Yeah.
But I'm not too certain people actually know what SentinelOne is, because I didn't either until earlier today. And of course, the big headline of 7-hour outage for this company is immediately a concern, especially when it shows up in your tech news feed and it's like, hey, what is this? It's got to be something interesting. So, can we get like a surface level topic as to what SentinelOne is, first of all?
So SentinelOne is a company that also has a piece of software called SentinelOne, which is what you probably want to talk about. SentinelOne is one of the most known endpoint protection platforms, offering things like EDR, XDR, SIEM for cloud, for endpoints and identities, all primarily powered by AI.
Of course. I mean, they could just say algorithm too in
Yeah.
this scenario. So it's not like AI, like ChatGPT AI.
Not
but,
that kind of AI. It's probably
not that kind of AI.
probably
It's-
some sort of machine learning,
yeah.
which is yes AI, and yes it's kind of similar to LLMs but different branch of AI.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about what EDR is, because you need to know what endpoint detection and response is.
Yeah, I mean, you threw a bunch of acronyms out there, so if you want to explain some of them for some of our non-cybersecurity focused listeners.
So EDR is software used by security operations team to detect, contain, investigate, and remediate cyber attacks of all kinds. It's basically a piece of software you load onto what are called endpoints, aka computers, servers, whatever. Then that does scanning like your normal antivirus would, but instead of just remediating to the best it can, it reports back to the central server, where you have dashboards and all sort of things for people in the network operations center or security operations center, who then tell you who then tell what to do, how to remediate, and so on.
Okay, so it's just like it not only does like, so say like I have malicious package on my computer, it not only detects that, but it reports it back up towards the vendor company,
Yes.
who can then take time to figure out like a proper remediation for you before they even tell you about it.
Yeah. And
Okay.
in many times you also have network operation centers in big companies. So let's say if you are I don't know, some big major company that has, I don't know, 1,000 machines, you're gonna have night and day network operation center. People who maintain a network watch that network doesn't fall down. Basically, what they do is watch about 10 monitors for any kind of fall in the graphs. And among those things, they also see the dashboards from EDR, see where anything has been detected, and they can also do the remediation along with dedicated people in a big network operation center back at a vendor who may be watching over hundreds of thousands of computers at the same time.
Okay, so then this sounds like a competitor towards like another company that we talked about earlier this year called CrowdStrike.
Yes, it's basically they do the same thing.
Okay, so that sounds like that these guys serve a pretty important function, and this 7-hour outage explainer that they posted from over the weekend as we record this, they say that this had something to do with a control system. Now, obviously, if we're running like this active threat monitoring service and threat remediation service, it probably has some kind of critical access to your machine. And
many times it has kernel level access.
Yeah, and you know it probably communicates constantly back and forth between where it's running on your machine and their remote service to make sure that it's got like the freshest of virus definitions and all that.
Yeah, freshest virus definitions, freshest orders, all that sort of stuff.
Okay, well, to explain this article, it's only going to take like a really short phrase. But I'm going to go in depth for it and then give you that short phrase after, because I'm going to explain to a lot of things. I'm going to hit like a couple hot button topics here, you know, high level sales pitches that they've all made in like their explainer. But SentinelOne is currently doing a migration from like one production system to a new fancier cloud architecture built one that uses infrastructure as code principles.
Yes.
Serverless.
Not necessarily.
Maybe not quite, but you know that's what I think of whenever I see infrastructure as code. But anyways, they were doing this migration, right? All nice, super careful. The control system triggers on itself by them creating a new account for this new production system, which then led to a remediation step that it enforced itself to restore from backup. Well, guess what they forgot to do? Well, actually, they did make a backup. It's just that the cloud panel, for some reason, deleted it.
Oh, wow.
So, to dumb it down, they forgot to test their backups before deploying in production.
So, for those of you who may have been cringing on Josh's thinking about infrastructure as code, I'm gonna tell you what infrastructure as code is, because I was cringing as well. It's actually essentially your whole infrastructure written as a configuration file or a script, nothing else.
Okay, so this
It
is
just
like
means instead of Josh, you know, when you create a VM in our cloud of choice, and you go into the web UI and you pick this region, this name, this firewall, yada yada yada. Instead of that, what IAC does on infrastructure as code, what it does is that you write all that into a file, and you send
Okay.
that file up to the cloud provider, who then takes that file and creates a virtual machine based on it.
So like this is an Ansible nut job's dream.
It's
Sort
called
of.
but what you use for this is most likely Terraform.
Yep.
You probably heard of Terraform.
I have.
That's what it is. Like basically, it's the other side of what Ansible would do. Ansible would do the software preparation, while Terraform would do the hardware preparation, essentially.
Okay. Okay. So hey Bigpod, have you ever forgotten to test your backups before?
Yes, all the time.
Okay. Okay. Just checking. Uh, obviously, these guys, they might have tested a backup at some point, but maybe they just didn't do it from like their cloud control panel. You know, like set up a whole separate service using different domains. That way they don't break anything or anything like that. Then just do migration on that, just see if it works, and then, stuff like that. But what they said is that the software flaw in the control system's configuration misidentified discrepancies and applied what it believed to be the correct configuration, restoring from backup, overriding the previously established network settings. So it tried pulling a backup from a source that doesn't exist anymore. And
because that information was no longer available, as it's not a source of truth, what it did, it pulled an empty route table, and that did also great things for the for the system.
Yeah, so it took probably more than just themselves down. Probably took out like customers. All they said is that it blocked customers from viewing potential vulnerabilities and accessing identity consoles. So I don't know. I don't know how deep the SentinelOne software actually operates on consumer machines.
Probably just as deep as CrowdStrike. The difference is here because it couldn't connect to the server. All it would probably do is, depending on the settings, but it might just go, yeah, okay, I cannot connect. Let the client still work. If anything happens, I can still shut down the machine.
Yep. Which hey, that's pretty cool. So glad to see that customer systems were not completely shut down. But it would be nice if you're deploying this kind of software. It sure would be nice if it worked.
That is true.
Yeah, but in the meantime, while I was pulling up things for us to talk about on this episode, I get this big breaking news in my RSS feeds, like not even 2 hours ago that some of this stuff is reported. When in fact, the CVEs were filed 2 days ago. But apparently all the news aggregators are just picking it up. But did you know that there's a new flaw in Linux Bigpod?
Oh, good.
Yeah. But here's the deal, right? The news aggregators are saying that it's Linux's fault. But you actually got to read the article because it's not the kernel's fault. It turns out that it's an issue with core dumps, with applications that index core dumps or core dump handlers in both Ubuntu and Red Hat ecosystems. So on Ubuntu, you have this application called AppPort, which is just a bug report, which is when you're using an Ubuntu system and you encounter a software bug, that's the thing that pops up, says, hey, would you like to report this back up to Canonical? That's what that is.
That's AppPort.
Yep. And then the issue with the Red Hat systems is a systemd utility called systemd core dump, which is just a way for you to get core dumps.
So basically, if you have a system or a program that has that outputs a core dump when it crashes, what happens is one of these handlers will pick up the core dump, and if the local attacker at that point inside that program wins a race condition, which means something happens before some other thing, they can start a process with same ID in another mount and PID namespace. So that means inside a container, and therefore all the relevant information will become available inside the container in a completely readable fashion, which may include passwords, or at least their hashes, which can be pretty bad. This is especially seen with SUID flagged program binaries, because they do carry that stuff around.
Now, this sounds like an access issue where you have to have access to the system first.
You need to have a local access. You cannot just do it like it's not something you hit remotely. You need to have some sort of local access, but it might actually mean local access. Even SSH might be local enough.
Yeah, which hey, if you have access to the underlying operating system of a system that is vulnerable to this, there's probably a lot worse things you could probably do. First of all, and second of all, if you're just going to a website and you're browsing that website, you're not going to be able to encounter this issue. That said, anybody that just happens to have access, like say a leaked SSH key or something like that, they can see your password.
So this could be considered a privilege escalation bug.
Yeah.
But then again, if you really think about it, all they need to do is bring in an old version of Bash, and they got privilege escalation galore.
That's true. That's true.
That bugged version of Bash is all they need, and they can get whatever root they want. It's like not that hard.
Yeah.
That's why if you don't need curl, delete curl. NVGet and anything like that.
That said, deleting curl might be an issue because some package managers use curl as a dependency.
Yes.
So
that's horrible and annoying.
Yeah. So say if you're using something like I think DNF uses curl to download.
Yeah.
I can't remember off the top of my head.
And it hurts my mind.
Yeah. If you delete curl, suddenly your package manager can't download anything anymore. So
that's very annoying, because at the end of the day, the catch is like if you do not have curl, you have taken away attackers' ability to bring in other assets, so they have to live off the land.
That is true.
Which means they have to use what's already available instead of bringing any tools with them, like for example, a bugged version of Bash.
That's true.
And another week, another conference. But this time, instead of me watching it, it will be Josh. So, Josh, take us away with, what is it, Red Hat Summit?
Yeah, it's Red Hat Summit. Now, this is a yearly event that Red Hat does about this time of the year, every single year, in, I think, in Raleigh, North Carolina, which is where Red Hat exists. I don't know if that's where they're based. I think that's actually where they're based, but I'm not 100%
I think so, actually,
certain. Yeah. So they host us there every single year, and they also tend to like bring a lot of people with them too, because it's also where Ansible Fest is. It's where like the OpenShift Summit is. It's just like one big massive event. Think of like say your American version of FOSDEM, but maybe not like all encompassing as FOSDEM is. It's a little bit more focused because it's Red Hat after all. So
and yes, It is headquartered in Raleigh, or how it said it. I don't. I have no idea how to say that word.
I call it Riley. Because heaven forbid, there's like 7 different ways. If I go south, they might just call it Rala or whatever. I don't know. I live in Ohio. All right.
And yeah, they have a tower there, Red Hat
Yeah.
Tower,
Oh, okay. Well, anyways,
or at least
for-
they had
for-
it. Wikipedia page says they do.
yeah, for some context, I only listened to the day one keynote. They did a new keynote speech for every single day. So I only really listened to the day one keynote, and it had some pretty interesting topics. That said, you got to remember that this is the opening keynote of the event. The CEO has to sit there and make sure that the entire crowd is included in this conversation. So he first of all started talking about Red Hat, the company, and how great Red Hat itself is doing, which is cool because Red Hat does a lot of cool things, even though they're IBM owned. So some people kind of detract from that, but Red Hat still serves a very important role in open source development. And he wanted to talk about like everything that Red Hat has contributed towards what they've accomplished. And then he got talking about the Red Hat servers, the Red Hat Enterprise Linux that you can download and install. And during that, he also just like mentioned that Red Hat 10 got released too, which I'm gonna have a bit more on that here in just a minute. But we got that, and then he started talking about AI, Red Hat's involvement with AI, how AI is helping Red Hat, and how developers can leverage the AI tooling built into Red Hat with AI. I'm like, oh, okay. So it's very like cringeworthy if you're wanting to avoid AI, just in general. But there's a lot of stuff that happened at this event, and I've got quite the backlog of stuff I need to pay attention to and watch. In fact, I still think that they're still uploading videos from it on like the Red Hat YouTube channel. So give that a watch. That said, they announced a few things that were interesting. First of all, Bigpod. I think we touched on it in the last episode. Let's talk about image mode.
Yeah.
Now, if you're not familiar with what image mode is, it's basically Fedora Silverblue, but this is Red Hat, not Fedora. It is Fedora's atomic version. And it got me curious because I have some experience spinning up like these Fedora atomic distros. And it's like, well, what does it take to make a Red Hat one? Well, they don't really tell you how to do it via like the super manual method that I'm using to maintain like my HTPC image. But they do generally tell you that you can use Podman Desktop to, just create an image. So I sat down on a Sunday and I got this working for our Monday recording. And I was just like, okay, so what does it take to make a Red Hat bootable image? Well, I installed Podman Desktop from the Flatpak, which is available on FlatHub, which then I then set up with like the Red Hat integrations for it using my Red Hat account because I just have one. And then I got into messing around with just figuring out how the Podman Desktop application works because I haven't used like these graphical applications to manage Podman yet. And, it seems like it works. That's pretty cool. It's kind of like the Docker Desktop, but Podman. All right. And then I got reading through, like, the Red Hat image mode documentation. And there's a lot of stuff to work through here. Now, it's actually fairly straightforward at the end of the day. But if you're not used to working with Podman, and specifically Podman, not Docker, you got some reading to do. Just letting you know. So
there are some differences.
Yes, there are some differences, and if you're not expecting them, they're going to be pretty big. Anyways, I sat down on a Sunday morning specifically, and I just started generating operating system images to the point of where I generated a Red Hat 10 image that I installed on my desktop computer and I am currently using to record this episode, of which I ran into a few issues. First of all, obviously this is Red Hat 10. This is an enterprise Linux distro, not really intended for like the consumer desktop, but like the professional desktop, if you're going to have a desktop version at all. So obviously there are some packages that are just missing. Like for example, the Intel Media Driver is not served in Red Hat Enterprise Linux. So that's fine. RPM Fusion does maintain a repository, as well as Apple, which is another repository that adds like these extra packages as well. So I was able to get like the Intel Media Driver working for like the hardware acceleration. It seems to be a little buggy, so sorry, but I did get that installed. I even got like the V4L2 loopback plugin kernel module installed, and it supposedly operates on my system, but none of the applications that I use to normally interact with it seem to work with it. Like they all just segfault. So that seems to be an issue. And I'm like, okay, so let's nuke this first install, and let's just install like base Red Hat 10 as a workstation. So I get that up and working. Same exact issues. And I'm like, okay, so it's not an image issue. Okay, so let's see what I can do with this, right? And yeah. I'm starting to realize that this is very much just like making your own version of a Fedora Atomic distro. Like but you know, obviously you're using Red Hat utilities, so and it does require that you have at least a subscription for Red Hat, which you can get, which if you're using the developer subscription, you just have access to everything anyway for 16 devices. Obviously, it's going to use up your subscription allocations, so you need to remember to go into the Red Hat dashboard and delete your previous images that you've created. But it does work. Because I'm talking to you from that now, Bigpod. Now,
nice.
I did link a couple other articles, like the ZDNet article talking about how Red Hat is basically changing the way that enterprise Linux is done, because Red Hat says this is what they're going to go forward with. Like they're not going to mess around with this like being like the beta versions. They're just saying do it, and they're going for it. Which basically means that Red Hat's actually doing something innovative, because OpenSUSE's macOS is still technically not production ready, which means that SUSE Enterprise Linux is not deploying it, so no ALP yet. Ubuntu Core still not meant for servers. Flat Car Container Linux, which is like automotive Linux, technically not deployable
not really
yet.
Well, it is used. Flatcar is maintained by Microsoft, if I remember correctly, mainly.
Yeah,
it is heavily used in production environments, no matter what they say.
That is mostly just for like running containers. It's very focused on what it does. But this is like your general purpose server operating system that Red Hat is talking about here.
Yeah.
Which means that Red Hat 11 might not be a quote-unquote mutable distro. It might just it might just actually be full-on immutable.
Yeah. That would be nice to see.
Terrible definition of immutable, which
also actually, it's not immutable.
Yeah.
Because it has mutable components.
Of course, because we can change user accounts and we can add files as users. So it's technically not immutable. But it's an image-based operating system. But hey, it's pretty cool, and I'm going to continue messing around with this for a little bit. That's it. It's got me thinking, Bigpod.
What?
My servers in my closet are currently all running on Debian. Like, everything in that closet is Debian except for my desktop right now.
Interesting. Yeah.
Like, everything in my house is Debian. We're all excited about Debian 13. But I've had some issues with with Debian's release, like, a bad kernel update coming through that breaks PCI Express pass-throughs for like virtual machines, or networking breaking using Debian's weird ass networking stack that I still don't completely understand for some reason. Because all the documentation talks about network manager, but then Debian server install, network manager is not there. So it got me thinking, do I just switch everything to like these Red Hat systems? Because I do have a proper Red Hat subscription that I could make use of, but technically I'm that might be a licensing violation if I do that. But maybe I just run this developer license and just install Red Hat on everything and see how long it lasts until like I inevitably blow it all up anyway.
That would be interesting.
The thing that I always run into whenever I tried running like these operating systems is that I just get tired of troubleshooting SE Linux, which the Red Hat Insights utility can now just automatically resolve SE Linux issues and just deploy them fleet wide from a single button.
That's nice.
Which that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then OpenShift is gaining in popularity according to Red Hat because they did mention due to insights from from certain competitors, VMware, and raising issues concerning licensing and all that. So maybe this is where I want to be like looking a little bit more, because people call me like a Red Hat shill. It's like I'm not really a Red Hat shill. I just like what the company does. Maybe it's finally time for me to go all in and just wear that red fedora without actually working for Red Hat, so I can't buy the proper red fedora. But Amazon's got them for like $9. But with this being a thing, maybe it's possible to like set up like CentOS Stream as like a bootable container as well. So I need to figure out like if it's possible to do that through the tooling. Because because I do know that like the uBlue project has like this Bluefin LTS thing.
Yeah.
Where it's basically just like CentOS but in a uBlue style system.
Yeah.
But the uBlue team sometimes make decisions that I'm not necessarily a big fan of. Like adding a bunch of extra packages, making some modifications to some things to allow like general usage of that, as they claim. So, am I insane? Am I insane for like wanting to do this yet? Because I don't think I care about using all the like these upstream distros anymore. Like I don't care for like being on the leading edge as people claim it to be and all that. I'm just looking for stability in the systems that I've used day to day. Like I don't want to be like the guy that runs Arch Linux on 30 plus machines, even though at one point I was using Gentoo on 20 plus machines. But it's just but I want to use the same ecosystem on everything because I only want to learn like the one ecosystem at a time, rather than figuring out how to troubleshoot an issue on Fedora versus troubleshoot an issue on Debian versus troubleshoot an issue on KISS Linux versus troubleshoot an issue on like this random box here that runs a Linux version of I don't know what it is. Oh, it turns out to be Slackware. So I don't think I'm necessarily insane about wanting to put everything all on like one platform. But if I set up like this new system obviously, I have like this video series where on my channel where I was setting up everything from like a Fedora minimal install, which did show like some issues, and I never really got delving into like how containers work on like these systems, because you can install just Docker on Red Hat and Fedora, but they would prefer that you use Podman, which Podman has one benefit over Docker that I really, really like. And that's called the automatic updates. Now, this is native runtime managed updates compared to third-party systems updating these containers. Now, obviously, sometimes you want to build a container and just have it never update because, it's a container that works, and that's the whole point of a container, is that sometimes you can just pin that version, just never update it. Should I pause for cats?
No. Go.
Okay. Well, anyways, I'm not really running a mass archive of containers. I'm not managing a fleet and everything. Like, I don't mind troubleshooting like issues on containers. Like, heaven forbid, I could just remove, if I'm using Podman, I could just remove like the auto update label for it and just tell it to just pin a version of a container if I really want to, because heaven forbid, it's just a container image. Just add the colon release tag version for it, and then it always pulls the latest version of that version. So, it's quite literally as easy as just a simple flag, and it's called -- auto update equals true or something like that. I do it the declarative way because I also use systemd to manage my containers, because Podman is systemd aware and integrates very nicely with systemd, where it lets systemd manage the containers rather than a background daemon that's running the containers. And it runs everything as a true user account by default compared to as the Docker user or root by default. So I'm probably going to be experimenting with this, and I might just talk about like my progress on it here in the future. That said, the one thing that I miss from Red Hat, no Btrfs.
Interesting. Still no Btrfs.
Still no Btrfs. And I know there are third-party kernels I can install and enable Btrfs, because they remove Btrfs entirely. They don't just disable the build flag in the kernel. So I can't just pull down the RPM source and then recompile the Red Hat kernel to have Btrfs. No, I have to use a completely different kernel. But I do know that there's a couple special interest groups that just ship a kernel that just happens to have Btrfs enabled. So I might be messing around with those, or I just go back to XFS on an LVM container, because heaven forbid, there's no reason why it shouldn't work. The only thing that I'll be missing is the features of Btrfs that, while I'm a big fan of, I've never really delved into Btrfs to really figure out how to use. Like Btrfs snapshots, yeah, they're pretty cool. I've only ever used them on my desktop. I've never really actually used them on my server. Because why would I need snapshots of the local file system when I've got a daily backup task from one server to an archive server, which then offloads to another archive server? It's like, I'm willing to take that 12-hour time difference or whatever on a lot of my files, because heaven forbid, the files that's stored on my server don't really change that often.
Yeah, makes sense.
And I've never really understood like the output of the device health check something that Btrfs provides, but I've always just traditionally used the smartctl commands to check drive health.
Yeah.
So if I'm not really using the advantages of Btrfs, why would I continue using Btrfs? Maybe it's time I just go back to running my RAID arrays through MDM and using XFS, because heaven forbid, it is still like the best file system that you can have for many tasks. Maybe not like the best overall file system, but it's still very good, and it's very battle tested. And then I could just put it all into an LVM container, which then I can still make use of snapshots of, and have like these dedicated volumes that I can shrink and grow as I need. That way, I can still have a file system that I can shrink if for some reason I ever need to do that, which I don't know why I would, but I can. And then if I need like a wonderful working web UI, Cockpit integrates so nicely into these Red Hat systems that it almost makes it like a better alternative to even TrueNAS in this scale. So, I think I'm going to give it a try. So, Bigpod, what are the chances you're going to try running a RHEL system?
Not good. Not good.
Not good? What if my progress on this is working so wonderfully, I could possibly tempt you into running a RHEL system?
Well, I checked into the parts of our offering I would be interested in, and the developer license isn't enough for them, so no dice.
Oh, darn.
I wouldn't
Okay.
go for a desktop or like a plain server. That's not something I'm terribly interested in. I would need something like their virtualization stack, which isn't covered by their development license.
So OpenShift.
Yes, not covered, but it's not covered by the developer license.
That is true. That is true. It's not covered by a developer license, which means that you can run it for yourself. And it's also system agnostic, so you can install OpenShift on all these other Linux distros.
Not really.
I mean, maybe not the full stack, but a lot of the tooling that they have, you can just do.
but since it's not covered by their development license, I can't even install it. I don't even get the download button.
Rough. But it is pretty cool for like what it claims to do. Now, obviously, I know you're enjoying like this XCP NG system that still looks like completely alien to me, because heaven forbid you need like a specific application to be able to manage it and all this other stuff. Like it's not intended for you to just plug a keyboard into your system and just manage.
Yeah.
So I know you're probably going to stick around with that for a little bit.
Yeah.
But I will
definitely.
keep you and the audience updated on like my Red Hat progress, because heaven forbid the first thing that's going is that archive server, because heaven forbid it's still using a Debian 9. It's still is it Debian 9 or Debian 10? It's old. It's old. So it needs updated anyway. And honestly, I think it's time for like our audience to be able to know how to contact us and tell me that I'm still doing like these insane things, and I'm doing insane things by doing them the same way. What? I don't know. Give me your feedback at contact@tuxbase.com. That wonderful email address, just send it to us through like this wonderful protocol that's been in existence for over 30 years now, the SMTP protocol, that we can then receive through our server that distributes it to us through the IMAP protocol, because heaven forbid, why would we use POP when IMAP exists?
Yeah.
But hey, these are established, long-running, GPL endorsed open source alternative ways to contact us, because heaven forbid, sometimes YouTube comments are just not open source enough for some people. Also requires a Google account, so I know that there's like 2 audience members that don't have one. You can still send it. You can still get in contact with us that way. That said, if you'd like to talk with each other, unfortunately, we're not hosting like a solution for you to do that. Sorry, we don't have a Tuxbase IRC server, even though there is a Tuxbase channel on LiberaChat that I don't log into, but it does exist. It does exist. I know this for a fact. So, you could talk there, or you can click this link in the show notes for our Discord, which we still haven't set up an Nginx redirect configuration to get that working yet, Bigpod. So maybe we should
haven't.
look into that. Yeah, which
Probably.
I know it's a simple text file, but in the meantime, it's linked in the description down below. You can go to that, because I'm not going to tell you XPZDSZE. We're like, okay, whatever. And if you would like to support the show, because, you're supporting the insane things that we're doing, because, we're doing things the hard way, you can go to patreon.com/NoTuxAllowed. From there, you get access to a higher bitrate audio feed. You also get access to the pre-show that's recorded sometimes, even though I don't think we recorded one for a while.
Yeah, we haven't.
Yeah. That said, Bigpod, feel free to, just record like rambling audio and just post it there sometime, because heaven forbid, I've been meaning to do that myself, but I keep forgetting to do it. So we need to do that one of these days. Just add extra spice to that feed, because heaven forbid, it's the feed that the audience pays for. Let's make use of it.
Yeah.
So you might get like extra stuff in there, and you maybe, as long as you're contributing to us on Patreon, these other things that we spin up and create that we really enjoy when we want to share with our audience, you might be able to get access to that as well. That said, we don't have anything extra right now, but there's the future of that happening. And of course, if you're a podcaster and you're looking to get some new hosting for your podcast, we do want to test how scalable our solution is, because it's theoretically scalable. It's not production. We just haven't actually done like the production test yet. So we're willing to host your podcast.
Yep.
And of course, you can find general links for like all of the things me and Bigpod at our wonderful website front page that I spent 10 minutes configuring for us at techspace.com. And we also have our own, where you can find our YouTube channels. The GitHub page that we just threw up there, because heaven forbid, we're a tech podcast. Obviously we gotta have a GitHub page somewhere.
Yeah.
So you can find us there. And I think that's gonna be it for the show.
Goodbye.
Yep, goodbye.